Are you feeling lucky? We're going to talk about it on today's podcast.
Hi, my name is Michael Johnson. I'm a ballroom dance professional, a life coach, and a peak performance expert. I'm part of a group of motivated people who are dedicated to attaining emotional mastery and unlocking our full potential. We've realized life is a dance. The ups and downs can spin you out of your mind, but it's time to take back control. It's time to become a lifer. We don't believe others are responsible for how we feel. In fact, we don't believe anyone can make us feel anything. We are a new breed of overachievers. Emotional mastery is our journey, and unlocking our full potential is the key. Welcome to the journey. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life.
What's up, everybody? Michael Johnson here with the Magic for Life podcast. I'm so glad you joined me today. And it's another great episode of the Magic for Life method of, I don't know, whatever. The idea here is we're going to be talking about emotions. We're going to be talking about how this soul and mind and body work together. And today I wanted to really touch base on something that is quite interesting, which is luck. So I love this little acronym. In fact, anybody who's worked with me knows that I love using acronyms. It's little ways of being able to remember what it is that we want to remember. And actually, it's not actually an acronym, but that's okay. We typically all call them acronyms. But, you know, when we use a word and use it split up, the letters split up to remind us of what we want to remember. So in the beginning, I asked you if you feel lucky. Do you think that you're a lucky person, or do you think that you're unlucky? Well, one of my mentors along the way that I've always loved to learn from is Anthony Robbins, and I believe he's credited with this acronym. I'm not sure if somebody else. It could have come from somebody else. You never know. But the idea is simple. Luck would stand for labor under correct knowledge. Labor under correct knowledge, which is really kind of fun, right? Labor under correct knowledge. And the reason I love that is because we can make our own luck. And sometimes we are dealing with other people in the world that you look at and you go, what the heck? I worked so much harder, right? How many times have you done that? I work so much harder than that person. I do so much more than that person. And they seem to just be lucky. They get everything that they want, right? And there's a lot of angles that we've got to take for it. But first, let's unpack that word for a second. You know how much I love to go to Google and just say, okay, hey, what does this mean? Because honestly, I know many of you are probably going to do the same thing. So I might as well just do it for you. And we can all cut to the chase, get the easy stuff out of the way. So if you go over to Google and you just search luck, it says success or failure apparently brought by chance rather than one's own actions. Okay. Or chance to find or acquire, right? He lucked into this thing. Or luck is the phenomenon that defines the experience, right? That was maybe in chance, that maybe it wasn't deserved, possibly. And so this other acronym definition is one that I really love because it helps us to redefine maybe what we think is going on. Now, let's take, for example, this is an easy metaphor. In fact, if you've been on social media at all lately, you would have seen this meme going around. And, it's a meme of an iceberg. And the iceberg is maybe showing this much up above, right? And the boat's coming along here and they see this little teeny iceberg, but underneath the iceberg and underneath the water level is this massive base of what this iceberg is. And so if the boat comes in right about here, it's going to hit the iceberg underneath, but you can't see it. And I think oftentimes when we look outside ourselves and we're looking at other people, we're looking at other fortunes from other people that are having success, it's really easy to look at it and just see the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg, but not actually see the foundation, because in so many instances, you don't know what's been going on underneath. The easiest thing to really think of is just like how does an overnight success happen? And usually it's when they are famous or when they are doing really well that everybody starts to pay attention. And in that moment, maybe later on down the road, you go back and you go, oh my gosh, where did they come from? Right. So you look at someone like Taylor Swift and you think, well, gosh, she just blew up. She got famous all of a sudden. But if you go back and you look at her path and her journey, it was kind of ridiculous, really. She's been at this for ages. Someone like Bruno Mars has been at this for ages. I mean, there's videos that you can find of him when he was just a little kid, dancing and singing and just doing his best to make it in this great large world, right? And so somebody might say, well, he got lucky. And so I love, like I said at the beginning, this idea of labor under correct knowledge. And so I thought we'd take it a little bit further for a moment and talk about what that actually means, that labor under correct knowledge. Well, what the heck is correct knowledge? And this is where it gets a little, oh, well, the paths start to diverge. So let's talk about this idea of correct knowledge. Well, first of all, let's do something easy and silly. Let's do the definition of correct knowledge. Well, let's just talk about knowledge. So the facts, information, and skills acquired by a person through experience or education, the theoretical or practical understanding of a subject, right? Or the second definition is awareness or familiarity gained by experience of a fact situation. Yeah, fact or situation. So that's pretty easy. We know that, right? We have all heard that, and so it's kind of a nice refresher. But having knowledge is usually from experience or education, right? And that's huge. So I actually believe that there's two parts to this idea of education, right? This education and a belief that it's true. So really part one is you got to have this education or skill to it, or you got to have a belief about something. And all you have to do is believe that it's true. So you have probably had an experience similar. You looked outside yourself, you were looking at somebody else, and you were figuring out why they were lucky, why they maybe were successful at that thing that you're looking at. And as you look at them, you go, oh, they're so lucky. They always do this or they always get that, right? And it's really easy to look at that and think they didn't work for it, or they didn't maybe get that thing that they were after legitimately, and you're doing it the right way. And so you should deserve that. And usually it has to do with us, right? So there's usually a connection with jealousy of some sort or something along that lines. Anyway, that's another topic altogether. But when we look outside, it's really not fun when we look out and we see somebody have success and we go, well, they didn't deserve that. I know they didn't work hard, or I know they didn't get it the right way. They must just be lucky. And that's where this other idea of belief comes in. I've known so many times, a lot of you know that I have had a career in ballroom dance. And so many times being a competitor, and you look at a competition like ballroom, and it can be very subjective. There are things in it that are very objective, but the judging element of it is very subjective, meaning the judges get to decide. They get to decide, and they're deciding off of their opinion, off of how they feel, off of what they saw in that moment, in that day, in that time period that they got to see you, which might not be the same time that all the other judges saw you. So it's very subjective. And sometimes, a couple win, and the other couples, I was probably one of them along the way, would look out and go, well, they were lucky. They didn't work very hard. They didn't put the time in. They didn't really deserve to get it. So what happened? Well, one element of it is we were probably wrong, right? You're probably wrong. They probably did put the time in. They probably did put the work in. They probably did get the knowledge and the education. You just couldn't see it, right? It's the iceberg theory again. And the other topic, or the other theory behind it all, is that maybe they just believed, and that's it. And I've seen that hundreds of times, where a dancer maybe hasn't had the education, they maybe haven't had the training, or they maybe haven't had the time or hours in the studio practicing, and they show up and they dance and they do well, and they might place well, they might actually find success, and they didn't put in the time, they didn't put in the work, and they don't have the education, because sometimes it's apparent, right? And or you just know from the background of what they're doing, and they still find success. And so some people would look at that and they'd go, well, that's luck. They definitely were lucky. They couldn't do it again twice. And maybe they could, or maybe they couldn't. However, there's another factor in the whole thing, and that factor is that belief that we were talking about. And to have belief, well, this is where things get a little bit interesting. So let's look at the definition of belief: an acceptance that a statement is true, or that something exists. Trust, faith, or confidence in someone or something. Through my years, and anyone who's worked with me and has spent any time with me know that as you're working with me, you might get something well done. You might do something well, and I will recognize it and I'll point it out and I'll go, well, I totally believe you, but I don't trust you. And so this idea of trust being in belief, it's there. There's no doubt, but there is definitely a split. And as you move forward, looking at somebody that maybe didn't put the time or the hard work or the effort, sometimes you wonder, how in the heck could they have possibly done that? How could they have possibly been so lucky? Well, it's about belief. It's about this idea that belief is the key, right? If you believe it, whether it's true or whether it's not true, it's really irrelevant. Whether it falls on either side of that, because in so many instances, because you believe, you can actually move mountains. And this is the craziest part. And I've seen belief overcome so many other things like knowledge and skill. And the belief actually radiates an emotional response that comes with it, that is confident, and that is something that is beyond understanding. Because the first step, and you guys have heard me talk about this, the first step before anybody else in the world believes it is you have to believe it. And in so many instances, we find that this is massively true, right? So you look at the law of attraction, which is based off of lots of interesting things. We can actually prove it in science as well, and people have. And so you can look up some of the research there. But this idea that we like attracts like, and as we vibrate in a frequency, things that vibrate in that frequency find their way to us. So, it's really interesting, because you look at this idea of belief, and it's amazing what you can do with it. And sometimes somebody that hasn't put in the time, work wise or work ethic, can happen upon some success with solid belief. My thought is, why not do both? Hard work combined with belief, right? That to me is labor under correct knowledge, right? Is that we're putting in the effort and the time to be able to learn and educate ourselves and be able to get a lot done with some good old-fashioned elbow grease and hard work, and then a whole lot of belief that you are greater than you know, a whole lot of belief that you can accomplish more than anybody's ever accomplished before. Because you see, most successful people have this delusional quality about them that says that they can do something different than has ever been done before, ever, in this entire world, in this entire universe. And that is, to some extent, a little bit delusional. But all the greatest things have come from that delusional person that thought, I can do this, I can create this, and they believed it. And then other people might have said they got lucky, right? But things like an airplane, a light bulb. You think back to some of the simple day-to-day common things like the light that we live with, and we don't think twice about it. And yet, in the time, it was Edison being absolutely delusional and having a belief, but also having a ridiculous work ethic and knowledge behind that belief. I don't remember the number of times, but there's something like 1,000 times, or he says he knows it's 999 times how not to create a light bulb. And then he finally figured out the one. Right. And here we are today. But that's the idea, right? Is that everybody wants to be lucky. Well, okay, let's put in the work. Let's get educated and let's find a sick and relentless belief in ourselves that we can create something that's never been created and that we can do something that's never been done. So I wish you all the luck in the world. If you love the video and or the podcast and you're listening on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're listening, please like and subscribe. Hit the like button. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and make sure to click the little notification bell to make sure to let you know when we actually release some more content. And we would love to hear from you. Please comment in the section below. I am lucky. Yeah, put that in the comments below so that you don't forget. I am lucky. And if you need a little extra reminder, say, I believe I am lucky. All right, let's get to work. Nothing like some good old labor under correct knowledge. We'll see you in the next podcast. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, lifers, don't forget to get your free copy of the Every Minute Book. You can find it at everyminutebook.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.